Alright, hello. I know. 2 Claude videos in like the same year? Impossible. And I know what you're also thinking. Claudio, no more Alan Wake lore. You're scaring the host. So welcome back to this sort of, I guess, series I got going on here. As some of you may know, I made my, like, I don't know, magnum opus fucking YouTube video. It's really long, and it took me really long to make. It was an entire month of just editing, but it took me even longer than that to make the entire video. And it's... I think it's pretty decent. I think it's worth a watch. And in that video, I failed to mention a couple of things from the Alan Wake timeline. They're not substantial. It's nothing like an entire game that I forgot to mention, but there are little things that I just failed to bring up. This video doesn't really make sense if you haven't seen the first video, or at least played Alan Wake, like just the Alan Wake game, and you don't necessarily need the other stuff, or both. I mean, it'd be pretty nice if you could check out the video, because all of this is like extra stuff that adds on to the Alan Wake lore and story, and I've already done a whole ass recap, so I'm not going to do that again. I just wanted to go over the stuff that I missed, and in this video, it should be much shorter this time around. I will be talking about the 2 comics, Psycho Thriller and Night Springs, both made with the original Alan Wake game, the blog post ARG, This House of Dreams, and finally, the in-universe book, The Alan Wake Files. I'm gonna go in like timeline order of when this stuff would happen, you know, with the rest of the timeline. So starting out, we have the comic book, Night Springs. So the 2 comics are included in the original PC version of the game. It's like extra downloadable content for free. I'm not sure if the comics are included in the collector's edition of the game. Otherwise, there are definitely like countless ways you can find it online. I found a big like Reddit thread. I know Reddit, right? But it genuinely is like a big Reddit thread that has links to all this stuff that's downloadable. And I know download at your own risk and stuff, but as far as I can tell, the links in the post does look safe. So I'll link that post in the description if you wanted to download all this stuff I'm talking about in this video for yourself. Well, besides this House of Dreams, that's just a website. So the comic Night Springs is... Actually, both of the comics are pretty short. They're like 20-ish pages. And Night Springs is set pretty much throughout all of episode 5, which I guess I could slightly recap, is when Alan goes to Cynthia Weaver to get the clicker. It's showing all the stuff that wasn't shown on screen in the game with some other characters. And because the comics are both short, I feel like it wouldn't really make sense for me to recap them, but rather read through them. And, you know, I know I'm no Audible narrator or ASMR YouTube channel or anything, but I feel like it just makes the most sense. If this format doesn't work, well, I guess I'm gonna fucking die. I don't know. I haven't put in as much work into this video as I did with my 3-hour fucking Oppenheimer video. So hopefully this will work. All that being said, I hope you enjoy. Let's begin. Night Springs. Excerpts from Departure by Alan Wake. When Detective Frank Breaker retired from the NYPD, he bought himself an apple farm in Bright Falls. He was glad to return to his old hometown. His departure from the force had been the culmination of years of drama and conflict. A lot of bad blood can accumulate in 22 years. But he'd been an apple farmer for a good long while now. It suited his present temperament. Working outdoors with his hands made him feel worthwhile. In his previous life, he'd had a reputation as something of a wild man. He didn't mind giving it up. Still, idleness didn't really come easily for him. He never really thought of himself as a retiree. That was one reason why he was eager to volunteer for what might have been called a reservist position. Beat, beat, beat. Frank Breaker had always been a man who took his duty very seriously. It was true that now, at 59 years old, he had mellowed down. Beat, beat, beat. What the hell? Alright, I'm coming, asshole. Still, Mellow was not a word anyone would have used to describe him. This better be good. Hello, Mr. Breaker? This is Barry Wheeler. What the hell are you calling me this time of the night for? Yeah, I know it's late, but listen, the sheriff, Sarah, asked me to tell you something. She says Night Springs, okay? So I guess Night Springs? Shit. Alright, well, you tell Sarah that I'm on it, okay? I'm heading out the door right now. Yes, sir, okay, Wait, why are you calling me? Is Sarah alright? She's not hurt or anything. No, she's okay. She's just busy, so she asked me to... Yeah, okay, fine. But I've never heard of you, son. You from the Bureau or something? Oh, no. Actually, I'm a literary agent, sir. I'm just helping her out because she's busy right now. Literary agent? Who do you represent? Well, the one you'd most likely be familiar with is Alan Wake. Hey, I heard he was in town. Matter of fact, I was just rereading The Sudden Stop when he called. You know what? He's the best thing to happen to crime fiction since James Ellroy. No lie. You're kidding. Well, I'm glad to hear that, sir. I'll tell Al you said that. That's really nice, but listen, I really need to make some more calls here. You got the message, right? Believe me, I got it. Night Springs. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Thanks, sir. Bye. Thanks for calling, son. God damn it. Calling Kirkland. Hey, it's Frank Breaker up in Bright Falls. I'm good, but I think we got a situation here. Could be a false alarm, but the alert I got's the one we only use when things get real goddamn serious. Yeah, right. That's why I... Uh-huh. That long? Shit. You sure you can't get anybody to... No? Yeah, I understand. Well, I guess it'll be over one way or the other by the time you guys get here. Yeah, thanks. This just keeps getting better. Frank made it a point to not try and control Sarah's life. He knew his daughter could take care of herself as well as anybody. She was tough and smart. It was her choice to be a cop. It was hard work that made her the sheriff of Bright Falls. She made him proud. But he couldn't help worrying. He was a father. He used to carry a badge. He'd seen his share of bad calls, more than most. There had been a lot of bad nights in New York. But it was only after a few years in Bright Falls that he started to understand how little he understood about the world he lived in. In Bright Falls, he'd seen a tree walk. He'd shot and killed a man with the head of a wolf. The body melted away into black goo that boiled away in the sunlight. And once, years ago, a little after the funeral, something that had the sweet scent of his wife laid beside him in the bedroom, breathing softly into the back of his neck, insubstantial fingers tracing a line on his hip. He honestly couldn't tell if he was horrified or relieved. Oh, hell. Ugh, damn it. False alarm, my ass. Life in Bright Falls could be like that. Damn right he worried about her. Bright Falls natives tended to take the weirdness in their stride, but there were those who were ready to step in an emergency, just in case. Frank ended up leading them a few years after he returned from New York. His law enforcement experience came in handy, and anyway, he'd been here to clean up the mess with the Anderson brothers back in 1976. He'd proven himself. They were good men. Frank was proud to have earned their respect. Pat? Shit. Guess everybody's here, huh? Yeah, Sarah got the call out. I hear it's pretty bad in the town tonight. I don't know how we messed this building up. I mean, the signs were there. That whole thing at Elderwood, what happened to Rose? This goddamn place has got more signs than people. Don't beat yourself up over it, Pat. You know how these things work out. So here we have Deputy Thornton, Deputy Mulligan, Deputy Grant, Deputy Janes, and Pat Maine. So, what do we know? Well, I gotta tell you, it's not looking too hot, Frank. Lots of bad shit crawling out of the woodwork. Yeah, I figured, Mulligan. What kind? Not what we usually get. Mostly it seems to be these crazy assholes covered in shadows. I've never seen anything like them. Yeah, Frank. Me neither. Shadow guys. Let me deal with this, Thornton. We ran into a couple of them, real ugly customers. Yeah, I've never seen shadow guys before. I swear, Thornton, I'm agreeing with you, fellas. Anyway, you can take them down with the light. But they're pretty damn tough. Creepy bastards, too. Like the babble, just like Bonehead over here. Come on, Mulligan. Hey, enough already. I got it. Anyone else? Janes? Yeah, Frank. Let me see. Okay, here we go. First of all, things seem to have gone quiet in the town now. But I've got 2 reports of empty cars just starting themselves up and trying to run people over. Oh, come on. Yeah, I know what you mean, Mr. Breaker. I didn't take it seriously until a mailbox attacked me on my way here. Damn thing nearly took my head off. A mailbox attacked you? I ducked, mostly. Well, that's taking express delivery a little too far. That it? A couple people told me about a tornado. A tornado? Just reporting what I heard, Mr. Breaker. Okay. Anybody got any idea where Sarah is? She's the one in the middle of this thing. We were just coming in. She took off in the rescue helicopter. I think she had Wake with her. There was a pretty serious firefight up there before that. Yeah, lots of shooting. But they made it. It looked like they were heading for the power plant. The power plant? It'll be Cynthia's place they're heading for, Frank. Yeah, okay. They'll be going there for a reason, so it's safe to assume whatever's going down, that's the place to be. I'm gonna head over there, see if I can help. Pat, you take the radio station and make sure it stays on the air. If we gotta evacuate, you're gonna have to coordinate that, okay? Got it. Grant, Janes, you make sure everything's quiet in the town. Quiet or not, I want some good eyes down there. And a couple of visible uniforms ought to keep people calm. You got it, Mr. Breaker. Mulligan, Thornton, you boys check out Hartman's place. I'll bet that shifty son of a bitch is involved in this somehow. Find out what you can. Leave it to us, Frank. The rest of you should spread out. Keep an eye around Bright Falls, okay? Stay in contact. Step in. If people need help, knock some heads if you gotta. But don't you get stupid. We all know this is on a whole another level, right? Don't get hurt. Sure, Frank. Okay. I'll be at the power plant. One more thing. I'm not going to pretend I'm not going there out of concern for my Sarah. If anybody thinks I should be doing something else, you damn well better tell me. Family comes first, Frank. We're good. You go do what you gotta do. Sheriff takes care of us every day, Mr. Breaker. Nobody's going to have a problem with you backing her up. Frank knew Cynthia Reaver reasonably well. They weren't quite friends. She didn't really seem to have any, but they got along, although it wasn't easy. She was paranoid and obsessive and obviously delusional. But he knew she wasn't stupid, and neither was his daughter. If Sarah was going to her, it was for a good reason. Sarah had Wake in custody, but Frank knew she didn't think he was a bad guy. He trusted her judgment. Still, Frank was sure the man was intimately involved with all of this. Wake was a writer. There was a precedent. Frank wasn't quite clear on what happened with the poet Zane in 1970, but he remembered the earthquake. Well, at least the bridge works. Creak. Sort of. Daddy? Hey, honey, we're crunch. Motherfuck. A tree under tension has a tremendous energy. First we fell, then we deal him. Splinters can rah. Goddamn freak. Get the hell away from me. What the... So it's gonna be like that? I guess that's where they are. Creak. Come on, you rusty piece of shit. Turn already. Now what's that supposed to mean? Driving me nuts. Sarah, are you here? Cynthia, anybody? Oh, hell. Cynthia had bragged about her secret tunnel to the dam. It didn't take a genius to figure out where they'd gone. Figured the least the nutty brat can do is let me steal one of her trucks. Seeing the helicopter in flames was like a punch in his gut. If she made it out, she was okay. If she was still in the helicopter, she was dead. There was nothing he could do about it. He felt a surge of blind, merciless rage he hadn't known in years. There was something almost sublime in the realization that he couldn't possibly cope with the death of his daughter. Suddenly, the world was uncomplicated. She would be all right, or he would bring hell. Holy screech, chunk, crash. Ugh. Whoa, what? Stay away. This is between me and the writer. What the hell are you? This doesn't concern you. The hell it doesn't. My daughter, if she protects Wake, she will die. You first. Ugh. Some people don't eat red meat. Stretching is very important. It's like that, huh? Blam! Blam! Ugh, son of a bitch. Blam. Ugh. No. Ugh. Blam. Click. Huh? What? For a moment, he wondered if this was what death was like. Ugh. The pain convinced him otherwise. It stripped layers of complexity from the world until there was just the next step. And Sarah or no Sarah. And what would happen when he knew which. Ugh. Sorry, Sarah. I can't. Ding. Wait. Please. I'm here. Ugh. Oh, God. Oh, Cynthia. I guess you aren't kidding. The world was full of light. Daddy? My baby. He was so happy to be in it with her. So that was just a cool little comic that showed more about the, secret protective council of Bright Springs. They don't say the name of their neighborhood watch or whatever. If you remember in the game, this was actually mentioned. Sarah Breaker gives Barry Wheeler a list of names to call and says the code word Night Springs. And I complained that wasn't further elaborated on. And at the time, I didn't know about this comic. So I'm genuinely surprised and glad that it was elaborated on a little bit more. It's shown Frank Breaker is pretty much like the leader. And how he came to establish the group and who's in it. And, I think that was just kind of cool. It didn't, add anything huge, but I think it was kind of cool to see, what's happening behind the scenes of episode 5. The next and second comic, called Psycho Thriller, is set sometime immediately after the first game, but before everything else. Psycho Thriller, an Alan Wake story, by Remedy. Excerpts from Departure, by Alan Wake. That cauldron-like lodge still stood after the Dark Presence's assault on it was a testament to the skill of the craftsmen who built it. The damage was considerable, of course, but by no means irreparable. The great house remained structurally sound, and yet a sense of violation was palpable in the air. Even the building's owner had survived. He, too, proved to be hardier than expected, but he was hardly unscathed. Excerpts from Dr. Emil Hartman's notes. Wake's bull-headed stupidity exceeded my wildest expectations. Admittedly, I made a mistake with him, but I never expected him to be so intractable. I had to use the drugs on him. I suppose I already knew at that point that it was going to be a gamble. It is hard for me to articulate the full depth of the frustration I felt over losing such a promising subject. I had spent such a long time searching for someone with such affinity for the power that dwelled within the lake. It's ironic, really, that it would be someone like Wake. I admit that I always expected it to be someone whose work was a little more refined. Someone like Tom. I would argue that it's only reasonable to expect work of this significance to be sublime and refined, rather than merely crassly popular. That Dr. Hartman continued to draw breath could be attributed to a lifelong preparation for a worst-case scenario, and the fact that when the Dark Presence attacked, its focus was not on him. Even so, he'd almost died. He spent an entire day unconscious in the ruins of his office. Damn it. No. What? What did I do? Oh God, just let me go. Help! Oh, thank God. I found that there's a certain type of person that manages to be both indispensable and completely disposable at the same time. Psychotherapy, or psychothriller, an Alan Wake story. Mott, Nurse Sinclair, is this the kind of thing I'm paying you for? I believe that description fit Mott better than any other person I've ever met. Tss. Ow. I deal with a lot of obsessiveness in my line of work, although most of them are creative individuals by nature. Dr. Hartman. I always found Mott fascinating because of his distinct lack of an imagination, a trait somewhat common among a certain breed of sociopath. I did a good job for you, Doctor. Mott was frequently useful to me. He had a dull intellect, unfettered by troublesome notions of morality. He also had a startling capacity for aggression. Well, that's unprecedented. You're not entirely gone, are you? But I see the experience hasn't improved your intelligence. Of course, Mott tended to be extremely high maintenance and volatile. His belief in innumerable government conspiracies, each more inane and unlikely than the last, made him increasingly unstable, or disposition. Gotta get the manuscript. There was always the disconcerting possibility that he would turn on me. Yes, well, your efforts on that front were rather pitiful, weren't they? In any case, I think we're past that now. But I had established control over him early on, a product of a troubled childhood. He yearned for a father figure. Better than Wake. Better than anybody. He had the self-esteem of a gnat. His life was a constant quest for approval and proof of his manhood. You? I doubt he was aware of how much of a cliché it made him. It's what made me his master. You didn't get the manuscript. Wake's writing for himself now. You failed. You failed me. Sorry. Well, nurse, we'd better retreat. I doubt that'll hold him for long. Yes, doctor. So, you don't seem too shocked by, are you gonna explain any of this to me, doctor? Why, certainly. The way into the hall has been blocked. I'm afraid we'll have to take a little detour. Mott has been taken over by something called the Dark Presence. Usually when that happens, almost everything that makes that person a person is flushed out. In Mott's case, though, it appears that a part of him actually survived the process. I suspect that's related to his obsession with me. It's quite fascinating, actually. Fascinating. That's just what I was thinking when that crazy asshole was about to stab me. You should take one of these lanterns. Mott won't like the light. You know you're very lucky to be alive, nurse. It's most likely because Mott's quite confused. I doubt he is fully aware of his surroundings. He's just about as charming as he ever was. In any case, this state won't last. The Dark Presence is much more powerful than Mott is. I would wager that the part of him that looks up to me will be lost soon. Once that happens, I expect he will kill us all. We'll simply have to survive until the sun comes up, of course. I doubt we can make it to the garage across open ground. Somehow this crap didn't come up when I applied for the job. I know a lot of the stuff wasn't exactly legal, and I got no problem with getting my hands dirty if need be, but possession? I'm not saying I don't believe in it. I saw him, but this is not what I signed up for. Yes, I can appreciate that, my dear. You have my sincere apologies. Obviously, this wasn't what I expected. We could talk about appropriate compensation later, but for now, we're gonna have to work together. Agreed? Yeah, I guess you're right. Excellent. Look, there's some light up ahead. That should deter Mott to an extent, if only we had a weapon. Do you know if we're alone in here? Did Birch make it? No clue. The last thing I remember before coming to and wandering outside is Tor coming at me with a hammer. I'm lucky that crazy old bastard didn't cave in my skull. Tor hit you? I know. I always thought of those two as basically harmless, but they really went apeshit on us. I had no idea they were strong. They were like berserkers. Interesting. I really thought they were completely burned out. There's somebody in the dining hall. Cauldron Lake Lodge was intended to be a place where troubled artists could find relief. Of course, some artists were more troubled than others. Rudolph, how are you feeling? Dr. Hartman, They tried to make me leave with them, but I can't stop. I can't stop painting, so I see. Please make it stop. Oh, God. I'm begging you. I can't take it anymore. Yes, I see. I'm sorry, I can't stop the pictures. Dr. Erdman had spent most of his adult life studying the strange phenomena around Cauldron Lake. He considered himself the foremost expert in the field. It's all right, Rudolph. Nurse Sinclair, do you think you can keep Lane a bit of company for a moment, distract him from this compulsion? He was anything but a humble man, but in this regard, at least, his high opinion of himself was justified. Of course, thank you. He had a great deal of experience dealing with these forces, much of it acquired firsthand over the years, often at a considerable human cost. Here, Rudolph, you look a little cold. Why didn't you get out of that ratty old coat and put on my cardigan? Yes, thank you. Of course, Hartman never gambled with his own life if he could avoid it. He knew full well the dangers certain creative endeavors could unleash. What do you... No time. Oh shit, nurse, it's time we left. He made it a point to convince others to face them instead. Doctor, you can't be serious. Feel free to stick around if you want to see Sirius. Making difficult decisions had never been a problem for him. Yes, this is much nicer. Thank you so much for Dr. Hartman. They fluoridate the water to turn us into sheep. Help, no. Credit cards have chips that can hear what we say. Shh. The government men try to count us. Not Hartman. Can't believe you did that, you unbelievable asshole. I agree, this is the perfect time to assert your moral superiority, nurse. With a bit of luck, you might make it to the garage while Mott's distracted. Dr. Hartman. Blast. Move. Damn it. Ugh. He'll get through any damn second now. Yes, thank you, nurse. I hate this job, and I hate you. Shut up and push, woman. Hartman. It's no use. What the hell? Where'd he go? Is that a police siren? Wow, cops that make me happy. There's a first. Dr. Hartman? That you? Sure looks like him. Hey, that you, Dr. Hartman, sir? Idiot. I just asked that, Thornton. Deputy Mulligan, Deputy Thornton, your timing is impeccable. I'm afraid we have a bit of a problem. And this used to be such a nice place. You're not looking too hot there either, Doc. Say, there was something at the door when we arrived. It took off fast. Yeah, it was fast. Yeah, actually, I'm gonna need your help with that, somewhat dangerous individual. Are you serious? Let's just get in the car and get the hell out of here. That would be irresponsible, and I'd rather deal with this now, rather than keep worrying about it indefinitely. Besides, he's already killed one of my patients. That was... You didn't have to... I hope you realize I quit, you son of a bitch. Yes, wonderful. Now, deputies? I believe I can lure the threat out. All I need is a little bit of cooperation from you. Oh, absolutely, sir. Shut up, Thornton. I'm afraid Mott's quite obsessed. I doubt he'll be able to resist a clear shot at me. I'm fairly certain I can buy a few seconds by talking to him. I trust you know what to do if I give you boys one at him. Well, it seems kind of risky. It's risky as hell. Yeah, they're dangerous. We had to fight a bunch of them just to get here. And these things aren't exactly great conversationalists. I mean, they make Thornton here seem sophisticated. Oh, come on, Mulligan. Let me worry about that. You just take position and hold your fire until I give the signal, alright? If you'll just let me borrow one of these. Just stay out of sight and wait for my signal, please. Mott. Hart. Man. Nobody's better. Stop. You've done well, Mott. Good job. Good job? Yes, I'm very proud of you. Do you understand? Nobody else could have done what you've done for me. Proud? Yes, Mott. Proud. Now, if you'll just do one more thing for me, I'll be very pleased with you. Will you do that? Will you do that for me? Mott? I want you to kneel for me. Yes, Doctor. Deputies! Blam, blam! Krakow! Twit, 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 twit. Thank you, gentlemen. Yeah, great. Now that we got that over with, we got a bunch of questions for you. I don't think so. What? Listen, sir, this will only take a little while. Any queries you have for me should be directed to my attorney. I believe you know the way out. You smug piece of... Whoa, hey, no, Mulligan. Come on, man. Yeah, I'll tell you what I know. Let's just go away. I need to get away from this place. And him. We better go, huh? Yeah, okay. What an asshole. You have no idea. Sure, asshole. Hey, sun's coming up. It was hard to accept that my current research could go no further, but I suppose all things must come to an end. And I have always prided myself on my ability to bend rather than break. Hello? It's Mel Hartman. Oh, you've heard. That's to be expected. No, I'm fine, but I think I have reconsidered your offer. I believe my clinic is unlikely to be operative for a while. I have to leave. I could use a place to land. Yes, Thank you. I'll be in touch. I genuinely miss Tom. He could have made us all great. He almost did. Beyond the shadow you settle for, there's a miracle illuminated. Tom Zane. I don't have many regrets in life, but I wish I'd known then what I know now. He could still be with us today. Still, better him than me. The end. And that is the second and last comic. I'm 99% sure that is the last comic. And I hope I'm not missing something again. Again, that was also pretty good. It reveals Hartman's alive much earlier than the Control DLC. So I also wasn't aware of that. And it also wraps up the kidnapper or Mott because he becomes taken. So I think that was pretty cool too. It's a loose end. So it just deals with that. I don't know. I think that's pretty cool that it's addressed in this nice free comic. All right. Hello. It is the next day. Again, I know. So next we have This House of Dreams, which is a blog post ARG that I think was started on the exact day that American Nightmare was released. This is also set sometime after the original game. It's at least been some time. It's not right after the original game, because this blog is also fairly short. I think I will also read through all of the posts and do a little bit of discussion. So the very first post by the main character, Samantha Wells, is posted on 2012 of February 22nd. That was 12 fucking years ago. Jesus Christ. Introduction. I fulfilled my lifelong dream and bought an old house. This blog will follow the process as I renovate the house into the house of my dreams. It's going to be an exciting adventure. Welcome aboard. And she links a picture of the house that she moved into that she's going to fix up. The next post is on February 22nd of 2012. All these posts are set in 2012 actually, so I don't need to say the year. Tour of the house. I took some photos today of the fun work ahead. As you can see, this will take a while, but I'm up for the challenge. Some of my friends think I'm crazy for doing this by myself. Yes, I'm talking about you, Andrea and Jen. I'm already browsing through wallpaper catalogs. Here are the photos. And then she links some more photos of the unfinished house. Oh, and exploring the nooks and crannies of my future home has unearthed some real treasures. The previous owner left all kinds of stuff in the attic. More of that next time. The next post is on the 2nd of March. First night in the house. I spent the night in my future home for the first time. It was almost like camping indoors. I had a sleeping bag. There was a weird flapping noise that kept me awake at night. I found a dead wren in the attic earlier. There was a broken window. And I imagine that there's a bird trapped somewhere inside the walls. Not a nice image to think about. Sorry. On March 5th, she posted toys in the attic. As I mentioned earlier, the previous owner left all kinds of stuff in the attic. Her daughter told me that they have no use for them. I can do what I want with them. I've always been fascinated by attics as a child. I used to sneak up to my grandparents' attic to explore. It always felt like a magical, mysterious place. Slightly scary, but not too much so. Filled with forgotten treasures waiting to be discovered. I felt the same way in the past few weeks, climbing up to my own attic. Here are some photos. And then there's just a bunch of photos of some seemingly random junk. The most wonderful discovery I've made so far is an old shoebox filled with typewritten sheets of poems and black and white photographs. Photos and scans of these soon. On March 11th, shoebox photos. There were 2 black and white photographs in the old shoebox I found from the attic. The box was among the things left behind by the previous owner. The photos depict a man getting into and out of a wetsuit and a woman, I'm guessing his wife or girlfriend, helping him. He could be a diver. I'm not an expert, but I'd say that the photos are from the 60s or 70s. Here comes the weird part. Their faces are covered with black ink stains. It must have been done on purpose, as only the faces are covered. It's a delicious mystery, this whole shoebox is. I'm thrilled. I love mysteries like this. In addition to the photos, there are poems, 12 of them. I'll post them soon. Here are scans of the photos. So obviously the photos are of Thomas Zane and Barbara Jagger, and their faces being inked out is, I think, a reference to how Thomas Zane, kind of wrote them both out of existence, so you can't find, or characters can't find, a lot of existing evidence of both of them. So because of that, their faces are inked out on photos, and there are no actual visible photos of them I think you can find anywhere in this entire timeline. Now we have our first most interesting post on the 14th of March, titled Shoebox Dream. Okay, I'm freaking out just a bit here. I saw a really bizarre nightmare last night. I know this is supposed to be a blog about my new house, but the dream is related to that. And on the other hand, look at the name of the blog. This isn't what I meant when I came up with the name, but now it feels strangely appropriate, don't you think? In the dream, I heard the doorbell ring and went to open the door. There was a man there. He said he was a federal agent. He showed me his badge and all, just like the FBI agents do in the movies. Here comes the scary part. There was something wrong with his face. It was leaking inky smoke so that I couldn't see what he looked like. When I woke up, I realized that this image totally came from the ink-covered faces in the photos, of course. See the previous post. The man asked me about the shoebox. He said that it contains top-secret information and that I need to give it to him. I got scared that he'll put me in jail and went to get the shoebox, but I couldn't find it anywhere. I searched the whole house for it, but it was nowhere. Then I went to the bathroom to look for it and saw myself in the mirror. My face was covered with inky smoke as well. And that's when I woke up. When I think about the dream, it didn't say FBI on his badge. It said AWE. This is the weirdest thing of all. Now I can't find the shoebox anywhere. I have looked everywhere I can think of. I'm sure that it will turn up somewhere. There's just so much junk lying around in the house at the moment. Kind of creepy in any case. I didn't get around to scanning the poems yet, but I did take photos of them, luckily. The next post is on the 25th of March, titled Under the House. A couple of guys came to do some plumbing work on Friday. They had to get under the house to do that, and I would discover that there was a trap door that led to the crawl space underneath. Crawl space reference? It had been screwed shut and had to be opened. After they were done, I decided to go down there to explore, armed with a flashlight and my iPhone for shots. I squeezed myself through the trap door. It was crammed and claustrophobic. I'm amazed that the workmen were able to do any work in there. I'm tiny compared to them. I was mentally prepared for rats and dead cats or even something worse, but there was nothing out of the ordinary down there. Nothing out of the ordinary in the town of Ordinary, pun intended. Here are the photos. And she shows photos. She's referring to the fact that the house that she's in is in a town called Ordinary, if that didn't make sense. The last post of March, on the 25th of March, is titled Shoebox Poems. I've been really busy and stressed at work lately, but in spite of that, the shoebox and its contents are never far from my thoughts. You might say that I'm getting a bit obsessed about them. I've been trying to find out who the poet is or the couple in the photos, but no luck. I asked the daughter of the previous owner about it. Her mother is in a nursing home and suffers from advanced Alzheimer's disease, so she wouldn't be able to help me. She was certain that no one in her family was a poet, and she doubted that the people in the photos were anyone from her family. She told me that her mom liked to buy stuff from yard sales, and her guess was that the shoebox was something her mom had picked up from one of those. I've tried to find the shoebox after one missing, but I can't find it. I'm so glad I took photos of the poems before I lost them. Here they are. And then she lists 12 photos of the poems. I'm not going to read every poem because, in my opinion, some of them aren't really important, but I'll show them up on screen and maybe you could pause and read them. I will go through a couple. Also, some of them have like extra notes written on them or like a Slenderman drawing or something. I will read a couple that I just think are the most interesting, and here's the third one. From bloom to gloom, our love like fire consumed. We burned our bridges, furniture, clothes, hair, flesh, and bones. All too soon we ran out of things to burn. But while it blossomed, our love was like a flower. Then an extra note written on the page. B, this is us, T. And then heart, and I think that says Barbara. Obviously that means Barbara and Thomas. And Thomas clearly wrote all of these poems, so it's a note addressing both of them. Another one is, my mother told me to no avail. If you play with shadows, you grow sickly and pale, and forget all the wonders the sun can unveil. Beyond the shadow you settle for, there is a miracle illuminated. And then another note written on the page saying, E's favorite line, a long talk with him about the meaning, and then an arrow. No changes, but keep in mind for another time. By E, I think he's referring to Emil Hartman, because that's the only name with an E that makes sense to me. Here's the one that I think is the most interesting. Frightened of the shadows of the deep, he challenged me to a duel. I indulged him. And then for that verse, it says rewrite. And then for the rest, it's, for he did not know that beyond the lake he called home lies a deeper, darker ocean green, where waves are both wilder and more serene. To its ports I have been. To its ports I have been. If that sounds familiar, that's the poem Thomas Zane recites to Alan at the very beginning of the game.
I have something important to tell you. It goes like this. For he did not know that beyond the lake he called home lies a deeper, darker ocean green, where waves are both wilder and more serene. To its ports I've been. To its ports I've been. Do you understand?
No.
The last one I'm going to read. I go underground. Follow me underground. Everyone else has gone there. Down to the ground. I'll take you underground. They chased a mystery. They are a mystery to me. And you'll think that of me when I tell you my tale. What we bring with us, sorry secrets and awkward lies, wet matches, a yearning for overcast skies. Everything else down here has been stolen so many times. Everyone who walks down these steps dies. I go underground. Follow me underground. Everyone else has gone there, down to the ground. I'll take you underground. The next set of posts are from April 9th, but it is just Samantha transcribing all the poems in case you were having trouble reading them from the pictures. So instead we'll go to the only post in May. Posted on May 30th, Shoebox Dream 2. I had another dream last night, and when I woke up, a real scare. In the dream, I was visiting the previous owner of my house at the nursing home. Only in the dream, the owner wasn't a sweet old lady. He was a man, and he wasn't old. He was a young man, with dark hair, very good looking, in fact. I remember that he was wearing a funny jacket with old-fashioned elbow patches. I was there to find out about the shoebox, but he was very agitated and didn't listen to me. The place was brightly lit, it was sunny outside, but he was still very anxious and wanted me to turn all the lights on. He kept going on about the place being too dark. I remember being certain that all the lights were on already, but that didn't calm him down. In the end, he was screaming for me to turn the lights on. I was also starting to freak out, starting to think that something horrible was coming to take us away, and that's when I woke up. I was really thirsty, so I got out of bed and went to get a glass of water. In the hallway, coming back, I suddenly saw a dark silhouette of a man outside the window. I must have screamed aloud. My heart stopped for a moment. I dropped the glass. Luckily, it didn't break. It's one of my favorites. That's an important detail. The glass didn't break. I was really frightened. I rushed through the house, turning on all the lights. My first impulse was to dial 911, but after a moment, that felt silly. I told myself that I must have imagined the whole thing. Seen my own reflection in the window, of course. With all the lights on inside, I couldn't see anything outside anymore. I ended up calling a friend of mine, Joss, who lives nearby, waking him up. He was kind enough to come over and check the place, bless him. Joss is a real angel. There was no sign of anyone outside. Today I'm definitely gonna buy some yard lights. I've been meaning to do that for some time already. So obviously the man that Samantha saw in her dream was Alan Wake, perhaps trying to reach out to her from the dark place. in some attempt to escape, although why exactly is not known because Samantha doesn't seem particularly special or unique in the way of helping Alan anyway. I mean, she does have the shoebox, so I guess that's probably why he was reaching out, actually. The next post is on July 4th. No light, no light. I've been very busy at work and too exhausted to post this for a while, apart from the nightmare the other night, which I had to get off my chest immediately, and it still gives me the creeps. On a more positive note, the house is slowly starting to look really good, and I've been living here for a while. Here's a photo of my fireplace. I got the yard lights. Now I only need to get them installed. To be honest, I'm playing for time here, writing this, not looking forward to going to bed. I was listening to the beautiful and brilliant Florence plus the Machine earlier in the song. No light, no light. Made me think about the nightmare again. And on June the 5th, we have the strangest post from all of this. It has no title and just says, called 911, men outside, shadows, dark coming, help more light. Okay. On the 13th of June, titled, Haunted House, she says, I'm back and I'm okay. Well, not okay, but alive. They kept me in the hospital overnight for observation, and then I spent a couple of days at my parents' house. On the night of the previous post, sorry if it frightened anyone, I had trouble going to bed. I was on my laptop listening to music. The TV was on in the living room. I wasn't really watching it, but I was mildly amused by the fact that the episode in the crappy horror show that was on was about a girl who buys a haunted house and gets into trouble. It was a rerun of The Twilight Zone or something. It gets ridiculous when the corny narrators started saying things like, she thought she had bought an ordinary house in an ordinary town, but nothing could be more out of the ordinary than this. I actually laughed aloud and walked to the living room to see. It was like someone was playing a practical joke on me. But then I immediately saw the men outside my window. Dark, shadowy silhouettes, and the power went out. And it was dark, and I could hear a window breaking in another room. I ran back to the kitchen where my laptop was. I grabbed it, rushed into the closet, shutting the door behind me. I sat on the floor and dialed 911. I could hear sounds of them breaking in, and insane shouts and laughter. I've never been so scared in my life. I could hear them getting closer. I stopped talking to the phone so they wouldn't hear me. I wrote the blog post. I don't know what I was thinking. Then they were behind the door, and I got up, trying to keep it closed. It flew open violently, and I fell and hit my head. The last thing I saw in the glow of the laptop was the shoebox. It was sitting on the shelf. There was no way I could not have seen it before, if it had been there since it was missing. Then all went black. I woke up in the hospital with a mild concussion. The police said that there were no signs of disturbance or a break-in, other than what they themselves caused when they came in to check and found me. I don't know what to think. I've been very stressed at work, but I'm not going crazy, and I didn't just imagine it all. It really happened. One thing is certain, this is my house, and I won't be frightened away by ghosts or shadows. This is my house, and I will fight for it, if that's what it takes. So there. I checked. The shoebox is there on the shelf in the closet. There is stuff inside that wasn't there before. Alright, what's going on? This is me in editing. I got a haircut. It turns out as I was reading through this House of Dreams, I actually missed a couple of posts, and I did not realize that for quite a while, so I'm just going to read these through, and it will look like I knew the whole time. So these posts from this House of Dreams are all in the month of July. This is from July 22nd, 2012. House guests. Soon after my last update, someone contacted me. They had found me through this blog. They said that they know a lot about what's been going on, about the origins of the shoebox contents, and that this kind of a thing had happened before, elsewhere. They promised to tell me more on the condition that I'd stop updating the blog. They said that this whole thing should be kept secret and hinted that it could be dangerous, that there are people out there who think that the contents of the shoebox can be very valuable and will be willing to commit crimes to get hold of them. In a way, it felt a lot like my nightmare about the agent who came asking about the shoebox. Of course, this was totally different in many ways, but still, it reminded me of that. Like the dream had come true somehow. I promised to think about what they told me, and I have, and that's the reason why there have been no updates for a while. They were friendly enough, but the more I thought about it, the more the whole thing felt like a threat, and that really pisses me off. It's a free country, and I can write about anything I want in my own blog. And the shoebox and everything in it came with the house, and thus it's mine. I've decided to keep updating the blog for now. The next post is on the same day. Inside the shoebox. When I found the shoebox again, there were more palms inside, and a battered old device, a switch of some kind. I actually had to go and ask about it in the local hardware store to be sure what it was. It's an old light switch. When you flick it, there's a solid, satisfying click. When I flicked it the first time after finding it, all the lights in the house went out. I swear I'm not making this up. It turned out to be the whole neighborhood, actually. And the real reason for the power out turned out to be the thunderstorm rumbling above. But talk about a coincidence of a lifetime. I've flicked the switch many times after that and nothing strange has happened. I can't explain where this new stuff came from. Someone broke into my house and put it there? That makes no sense. And then she includes a picture of what I assume is the switch. It's obviously different from the clicker in the game. I guess maybe there's 2 clickers, or maybe even more. So the next post, on July 23rd, more shoebox poems. There were 6 new poems in the shoebox, as well as something else. Not a poem, a title page, I suppose. It seems to come from a different batch. All the pages seem old, as if they've gotten wet at some point. In any case, here are the photos. And she links the 6 new poems and the title page. She also goes to transcribe these in the following posts. And that's all the posts that I missed reading. Since there's only 6 poems, I felt like it would be fair for me to read through all of them, because I didn't know they existed. So poem number 1, I came looking for my princess. Instead, I found a witch wearing her face. No one in the family had noticed the change. She said, "She becomes me." Through all the wicked things she did, to me her beauty kept me in a daze. I stared at her adoringly and forgot how she used to be. As she tortured me for days and days, she said, "She becomes me." Isn't it strange that with every wound she's caused, her beauty in the mirror fades? I hear she's already looking for another pretty girl to put on in the old one's place. She said, "She becomes me." We're both so thin. We wear our skeletons on the outside. She becomes me. And then written on the paper, "Be offended." Thought this was about her. Of course it's not. Poem number 2. Tightrope walking. Would you choose a safety net that traps you and kills the thrill? Thin weave of wires slices your flesh. I must prefer the dark air in between. Soft shadows hug you gently all the way to the ground. And then written on the paper, which are you drinking, the water or the wave? John Fowles. John Fowles is a real novelist, and that quote is attributed to him. Poem number 3. More than anything, his dearest wish, he wanted to go from there, to leave, but he could not change his heritage. The blood in his veins was ink, and the crown was too tall. To pass through the door, he was doomed to remain a king forevermore. Poem number 4. Inside the shoebox we killed for, there is, we don't know what, neat stacks of $100 bills. Jewels like stars, the dreams of those who've slept in this town. The dreams of this town, when we open it, the dreamer will wake, and we, all part of his dream, will be gone. Our wishes come true, the power to punch a hole into the universe. Inside the shoebox we killed for, there is a coffee thermos, which is scratched out, a flashlight, which is scratched out, a box of ammo, which is scratched out, 2 pages of poems, which is scratched out, and countless words, or if you interpret the one as an L, worlds. Inside the shoebox we killed for, there is no cat, poisoned or otherwise, dead or living, undead, uncat, baleful spirits, all the evils of the world, no hope, nothing, darkness. And then written on the page, E, can't see it. His view is too, crossed out, narrow, limited. It's not a lake, it's an ocean, darkness, before the act of creation, before the Big Bang, darkness upon the face of the deep, upon the face of the waters, before light, before the primeval atom, before the word, before the poem. I can be a creator, the creator. It has happened before, and it will happen again, many times, and many times is crossed out. Poem number 5. I was surprised to find that such revulsion could shine in someone's eyes. How I hate your kind, he said as we sat down to dine on him. And the last poem, poem number 6. A good friend passed away today, quite unexpectedly. A bit of a bad luck there. But these things happen. It was nobody's fault, really. He was taken by a dark presence. We keep his things in a shoebox on our mantelpiece. And then written on the page, E, didn't find this funny. And then the last page, which is our title page, written on the page is Campbell's Monomyth 1, departure, 2, initiation, 3, return. And then typed, return by, and then it's scratched out. But if you know the game, you know that that author of Return is, of course, Alan Wake. Those are all the posts I missed, and now back to the original video. And now we have the very last post of this ARG on July 29th, titled Diving Deep. I had another strange dream, very different from the previous ones. This one was not a nightmare, quite the contrary. The diver from the photos appeared to me. He looked nothing like in the photos, but it was the same man. He was the poet who had written the poems as well. In the dream, he floated in the air above me in the bedroom, as if we were underwater. He was wearing a strange, heavy diving suit, almost like a spacesuit, and he was shining with a bright light. He told me things that in the dreams made perfect sense, but now not so much. I've made a habit of keeping a notebook and a pen by my nightstand so that I can write down my dreams as soon as I wake up, but even then, I feel that I missed or misunderstood a lot of what he told me, already beginning to forget it while I was writing it down. Also, when I read through my own notes now, some of them make no sense, but afterward, still now, I feel shaken by the powerful emotion I felt in the dream. I try to explain the dreams as well as I can. The diver told me that a dark presence had taken over his girlfriend, the woman in the photos. He tried everything he could think of to banish it from her, but everything had failed. In the end, he finally understood what he had to do. Finally understood the true nature of the dark place that was hidden under the waves of the lake where they lived. The lake was an opening to a dark place that was much bigger than the lake itself. In fact, much bigger than the whole universe we live in. He wrote one last poem, his masterpiece, a secret poem, a hidden poem, a poem that's not among the poems I found in the shoebox. And he took his girlfriend for one last dive. Together they sank down into the depths far deeper than he had ever dived before. In the dream, I was there, diving with them, and from the depths, something or some things surged up to meet them. Things of darkness, but bright things of light as well. The diver explained that these things, or these presences, were forever fighting a war between the forces of light and darkness. A dark presence had taken over his girlfriend, and a bright presence now came to take over him, and he surrendered his body to it, but at the same time, the essence of who he was kept diving deeper, ever deeper, holding the essence of his girlfriend, their spirits, their souls. The diver, or what was left of him, his true self, spoke the words of a secret poem. The poem described a new world, an island in the sea of darkness, a safe haven, a paradise, a baby universe. The nature of the dark place was such that anything dreamed up there, any dream or a work of art, would come true, just as true as anything in our world can be. And the poem came true in the essence of the diver, and the essence of his girlfriend escaped from the darkness and disappeared into this new world to live there happily ever after, while their shapes is now taken over by a bright presence, as his girlfriend's had been taken over by a dark presence, surged up through the opening in the lake to our world to continue their battle there. When I woke up, I felt overwhelmingly happy and privileged of having been shown this. I've never been so moved by a dream, and didn't think it could even be possible. Even now, even though I've forgotten many details, the feeling remains, a feeling of hope. I know that something amazing is coming, that something wonderful is going to happen. And at the same time, I know that when it does, it will be something totally different from what I'm expecting, something I could never have imagined. And I know it might take a long time before it does, but no matter how long it takes, I'll be here, waiting. And that's the end of this House of Dreams. The profile of Samantha has nothing else in it. It only says her location is the United States. It doesn't have like an about me. She has no other blogs. She doesn't even have a profile picture. So that is truly all we're getting. Although it was pretty short and didn't have a whole lot to say, I think it was kind of interesting to see the mentioned control through that AWE reference, because it showed that they had come up with a concept for control like a much longer time ago than I thought, at least. They might have even come up with it after they released Alan Wake, because they released Alan Wake in 2010. So I think that was pretty cool. Seeing Thomas Zane's poems were also pretty cool, because you only get like 1 or 2 in the game. It's unclear what exactly Alan was trying to do, reaching out to Samantha. Maybe he did it through a Night Springs episode, as she references Night Springs, and the show alludes to, her being in an episode by the show saying she's in an ordinary house in an ordinary town by her being in a town called Ordinary. So it might be like a literal sort of implication. And I don't really know what to make of Thomas Zane's master poem that he tells to Samantha. We don't read the actual poem, but what she says from what Thomas Zane told her is just kind of confusing and weird, and I don't know what to make of it. But yeah, it was kind of cool. And the fate of Samantha is completely unknown, like, just completely. Although they do reference the shoebox that she has in Control. So, you know, that's pretty cool too. Hello again. It is the next day again. It's become really fucking hot in my bedroom because of the summer, so I had to break up filming this. I wanted to do it all in one day, but I can't. And I can't turn on my fan right now because I don't know if that'll affect my audio. So if I look like I'm really sick or something, I'm not. I'm just pretty fucking uncomfortable. So the last part of this video are the Alan Wake files, written by a character, Clay Stewart. And if you have a really good memory, you might actually recognize Clay Stewart. So all the way back at the very beginning of Alan Wake 1, during Alan's Nightmare, which is also the tutorial to the game, we meet Clay. And Clay addresses Alan as if Clay knows Alan, but Alan doesn't really respond as if he knows Clay. And then Clay dies in the dream, and he's never brought up again. And it was totally weird and never explained until the Alan Wake files, where Clay has compiled all of the things in the files. And the files seem to have been set and released in the in-game world a short time after the events of the main game. So obviously the Alan Wake files is a whole book. It's like 100 and something pages. I'm not going to read all of it because why would I? There is a YouTube channel that goes more in depth into the Alan Wake files, and I believe they actually give like an audiobook to it. I'll link that in the description. I'm just going to give a overview of the whole like book and read some pages specifically, but I won't read everything, and I may miss a detail here or there, but it's a much bigger thing to cover than the comic books, so I can't read it all. The book is addressed to all those who walk in light. The book begins with a preface, which is written directly from Clay. He explains he lived a normal, quiet life until some random dreams started. They were recurring, and the dreams always evolve into the same thing of seeing monsters and the dark presence, but also encountering Alan, so that explains the tutorial where the two must have had some sort of shared dream, and they encountered each other. And Clay says the dream always ends with Clay either dying or Alan either dying or both of them just failing, which explains why in the tutorial Clay appeared and then died immediately. Clay doesn't understand the dreams, and they're not really explained why they happened to him, but he wanted to try and find out what Alan Wake has to do with all of this. So in a sort of obsession, he admits he left his wife and kids and took off to Bright Falls to investigate. This is a part of the preface where he leaves his family and arrives in Bright Falls. I couldn't deny it anymore, and my decision was made for me. I bought a $165 ticket on a Greyhound bus and arrived in Bright Falls 2 days later. I'll admit that things didn't feel right from the beginning. I've lived in enough Midwestern shitburgs to know what economic blight looks like up close, and this wasn't that. Something had happened here. There were bullet holes in buildings and a general air of civil disturbance. There was a talk of tornadoes and a troubling number of women dressed in mourning clothes. There were 3 funerals the first day, all held for local fathers and husbands and wives, all held in absentia. When I asked people what had happened here, some mentioned freak storms and an annual town party that was preceded by horrible accidents. Most would not reply at all. They shook their heads and walked away, that stricken look of survivor guilt crimping their faces. They avoided my questions as though I was probing into some town shame, some big secret no one dared reveal. I know how strange that sounds, but it felt as though the whole town was being held hostage, like they'd been told they were being watched, and if they spoke to anyone, there would be more deaths, and more after that. I checked into room number 2 at the Majestic Hotel. It smelled of stale alcohol and cigarettes, with a fair dose of what I now recognized as fear sweat. I had no idea how long I would spend here, but I unpacked my bags, all except for my dream journal. I took my pocket knife from my backpack and drew out the Phillips head, climbed up to the air vent, and unscrewed the panel, thinking myself very clever, even though I'd seen this trick in a couple movies. I guess someone else had too, because it was there that I found the green cardboard box. So as you can see, Clay must have arrived a few days after the events of the main game, but not a whole lot of time has passed because they're still having funerals for those that died during the events of the game, and they mentioned that Deerfest had just passed, which was set during the main game. In his hotel, by complete coincidence, I guess, he manages to find FBI agent Robert Nightingale's files, and yes, it's that Nightingale, the crazy drunk asshole cop who tried to shoot Alan like 2 times and then died. Clay concludes that the dreams had pointed him to that room in Bright Falls, and he pieces together the main plot of Alan Wake. Alan Wake and his wife had visited Bright Falls, and his wife Alice had disappeared, but he doesn't understand a lot of the other details within the game. So the rest of the book, besides the conclusion, is all of Nightingale's files. So that's why it says compiled by Clay Stewart and not written, because Clay didn't really write a lot of the book. So we're getting a better sense of what Nightingale had been investigating, and also Nightingale himself through these files, which I think is actually pretty cool, because in the main game, you just know Nightingale thinks Alan is the bad guy, and he's going after him, and he's like an alcoholic or something, and he's just an asshole. While here you get a better sense of specifically more of what he was looking at or looking for, who he was talking to, why he might have believed Alan was this crazy villain that he thought he was in his mind. You get a better sense of who Nightingale was, and it gives him more depth, and I just think that's pretty fucking awesome. So the first section of Nightingale's files are his field notes. Some of these are kind of interesting and they're really short, so I'll just read a few. Day 1, night. Exhausted. Missed the turnoff. Took 2 hours longer than planned. Trees are pretty, but hell, they all look alike. This place really is in the middle of nowhere. And not the exact middle. That would be too easy. Sun's already down, hotel stinks, and not even in a good Chicago way. Majestic my ass. Gotta check in with the local Johnny Law in the morning. Haven't really grilled the local yokels yet. Don't think the moron at the front desk counts. Wish I had the Bureau's backing. Some official resources would help, but then there'd be a lot of explaining to do, and I've got no better way to burn my free time. Still have a few favors I can call in if I need some heavy lifting. Better this way. So obviously that was when Nightingale had just showed up. It's kind of interesting that he mentions he has a few people he can call because they owe him a favor, but he never does, and I guess. So, that's weird. Of course, the notes are written exactly like he talks, like he's really crass and insulting, and he says, like, majestic my ass or whatever. Nightingale reveals in one of his notes, Sheriff Sarah Breaker, the sheriff from the game. And obviously, Nightingale was hostile to her in the game, but Clay reveals that later he talked to Sheriff Breaker, and she actually expressed a different point of view than what Nightingale has, and she believed their relationship was cordial and cooperative. It's likely that she's lying about how the relationship was cordial, because it wasn't, and she's just trying to cover up the events of what happened, so that way people kind of go away and there's less attention on everything. Day 2, afternoon. How to get her boy before he hurts anyone. That's the $1 million question. Do these people know what they're dealing with here? Good God. It's like watching toddlers play with nitro. Interviewed locals at trailer park. Suspect there's something behind all these dopey country facades. Everybody knows more than they're telling, or maybe they just don't, which is even scarier. Wake did a number on that waitress. Sweet kid, but can't tell night from day. So obviously this is after Nightingale had first appeared in the game at the trailer park during episode 3 to try and arrest Wake, and he talks to Rose, and Rose had been touched by the dark presence and is obviously traumatized and like a shell of a person basically, so he didn't really get anything out of her. Clay admits that he's not sure why Nightingale is so afraid of what Wake might do, even though Wake has a supposed history of erratic behavior like his alcohol problems and his anger problems. He wouldn't be associated with anything that would give the FBI concern. So, day 3, noises last night. Some damn animals. Went out again. Got lost again. Goddamn trees. Can't believe how slippery some guys are. Talked to the front desk moron this morning. Didn't seem to know zip about Wake. Got real quiet when I mentioned him, in fact. Could be he just ran out of thoughts. I'm getting nothing out of these people. So obviously Nightingale has tried his best, I guess, to interview all the town locals, whether they're just completely clueless or the Dark Presence has affected their minds in some way, is, I guess, kind of left up to interpretation. But Nightingale's frustration at the fact that he's getting nowhere, combined with the fact that he already failed to capture Alan Wake at least once by the time he's written the Day 3 note, is clearly growing. Day 3, practically 4. Can't go on like this. Daylight is harsh when there's no sleep. Saw Lady Diogenes? Saw Lady Diogenes with her lamp in broad daylight. I forgot her real name. Got it written somewhere. How to get to Wake. Is someone hiding him? Extremism and the cause of sanity is no vice. Whatever it takes. Local head shrinker's name keeps coming up. Hartman. So Nightingale's becoming suspicious of Hartman, which is honestly his first real lead in all of these notes, because Hartman is indeed a shifty and villainous character. He also mentions Cynthia Weaver, or the Lady of the Light. Fun fact, the fact that he calls her Lady Diogenes refers to the Greek philosopher who'd walk around ancient Athens with a lamp during the day, and the purpose of that lamp was looking for an honest man. That honest man that Cynthia could be looking for in this metaphor could easily be Alan or Tom, because she was in love with Tom as well, or it could be both of them, because they're sort of parallels of each other and they're one and the same. So I think that's just pretty interesting. Day 4, afternoon. A partner isn't like a coworker or a friend or even a brother. He's your guardian, your keeper, your other wife. He keeps you on the dead straight, calls you on everything the others let slide, and he has your back when the shooting starts. That's where I failed Finn. I owe it to him to keep going, even when everything's gone dark. When the craziness back east started, he couldn't explain it either. That's when he needed me most, but I blew it. I have to make it right. So this is, in my opinion, the most interesting field note from Nightingale, because it finally gives us depth to him. He had lost a partner in some way. It's ambiguous as to what happened, but the partner had died. Whether Nightingale actually failed to save him or if it wasn't Nightingale's fault is of course never said, but Nightingale believes it was his fault and that he has to somehow make it right. So the fact that he's not over this traumatic losing of someone close to him clearly factors into his dangerous obsession of Alan, because if he believes Alan is the villain, he's going out of his way to be aggressive as much as he can to everyone to get Alan, because he needs to make it right in his mind. And that's just very interesting, and it definitely explains more to Nightingale's actions and his emotions. The next 2 notes are the last 2 field notes from Nightingale. Day 4, night. Hartman seems to be the big man on campus, very protective of his patients. Skim through his self-help book. What a load. He's got a sweet little racket going at the lodge. Gut tells me he's involved in all this somehow. Going for a drive. Can't think in here. Am I going down like Finn? Not if I shoot first. And the last note, night. Much later. Sounds are getting weirder all the time. Something just out of town, out by the farm. Flashes of light, too. Could be kids with firecrackers. Getting edgy, starting a barn fire. Probably ought to get some batteries for the stupid flashlight if there's time. Will I have it in me to do what's necessary when the time comes? That last line is so fucking ominous and creepy, given that we know what happens to Nightingale. I suppose that he didn't get batteries for that flashlight, and maybe he just didn't have it in him to save himself. So that's pretty sad. The next section of the files are interviews that Nightingale had conducted with several characters. The first interview being the supposed kidnapper of Alice, who never actually had Alice. Of course, Nightingale doesn't know who this guy is, but it seems like in his interview, Nightingale had turned on his recorder without the kidnapper's knowledge, which is something he seems to have done for a couple interviews. The interview goes about as well as you'd expect, with the kidnapper even mentioning his hatred of the government and the system. So, the next interview is with Paul Randolph, the manager of the trailer park, where Clay says some sort of incident involving the police and Alan Wake took place, but of course he doesn't know the details. And he admits that Nightingale actually shows professionalism and interview skills here, because he manages to get Paul to actually cooperate with him, and he thinks this is the echoes of a fading FBI agent for the loss of his partner. I'm going to read a section of the Paul interview. Interviewing Mr. Paul Randolph, manager of the Sparkling River Estates trailer park. I'm not sure I want to talk to you. Yeah, I've been getting a lot of that around here. Tough luck. We need to sort this out. You could have hit me. Sir, I'm a highly trained federal agent. You were in no danger. Yeah, but someone said you were drunk. Who said that? Do I seem drunk to you? Huh? I guess not. These goddamn people. Okay, look, sir. I know you had a scare, and I'm sorry about that. I mean, you're the one who called the police. I know you're the good guy here. It's just that the man I'm after is real bad news. I had to take the shot, you know? I know you were just concerned for the girl. Rose, right? Yes, sir. Well, you know, she's not doing too good right now. And if we're gonna help her, we need all the information you can give us, okay? Yeah, I guess. Well, those guys were in Rose's trailer for a long time, and I thought, wait a minute, Rose isn't that kind of girl. What's this about? Because, you know, I've been in this business a long time, and some girls, they, do a little business of their own. Yeah, and I don't put up with that, you know. I tell them to move on. I'm no prude. But I don't want that in my place. But I knew Rose wasn't up to nothing like that. So it was weird. These guys staying in a trailer like that. And those guys were, yeah, Wake and the loudmouth in the puffy jacket. I don't know that guy, but I recognized Wake right away, because Rose is always going on about him. She gave me a couple of his books to read. He's pretty good. But I read the papers too, you know. So I know he gets in trouble a lot. Anyway, they were in there the whole goddamn day. Nobody even came out for a smoke or nothing, because I was working outside the whole time and I would have seen them. You hear anything? Talking, arguing, any noises at all? No, sir. I wasn't that close. I mean, the way these trailers are built, I'm sure I would have heard if there was any shouting or something, sure. But there wasn't nothing. And I knew she'd skipped work today, so I got worried. I mean, it's not my business what people do in their own homes, but I know Rose pretty well. And I got to thinking that maybe she's in trouble. And the way you guys showed up, I guess I was right, huh? Uh-huh, go on. Well, I just got a real bad feeling about the whole thing, you know? Like a hunch. Like something nasty was going down at her trailer. And, okay. So I called the sheriff. Well, you did the right thing, sir. Nightingale also interviews Rose, and Clay admits that it's unclear what exactly happened to Rose, and the identity of the woman she's referring to, who's Barbara Jagger, remains unknown to Clay, but he thinks that Nightingale was genuinely affected by Rose's sort of distress. And for a moment with this interview, it looks like he's been able to empathize with Rose and kind of put away his obsession and his trauma. Following is an interview with Rose Marigold, 21, an employee of the Oh Dear Diner in Bright Falls. Rose. Okay. My name is Nightingale. I'm a federal agent, and I need to ask you some questions. Okay. I hear you were seeing Rusty. Is that right? The park ranger? I like Rusty. He never shouts at me. I give him free coffee at the diner. Don't tell anyone. Or I think maybe they know. Everybody likes Rusty. Something happened at Elderwood. We can't find Rusty. Do you know anything about him? Rusty. Hey, Missy, I'm losing patience here. I need some goddamn answers. Is it day or night? Why is it dark in here? Rose, this is really important. I need to ask you about Alan Wake. I'm his biggest fan. Yeah, I heard he was at Elderwood too. You know anything about what happened there? Why was he at your place? His new book's gonna be the best possible roller coaster ride. Uh-huh. What did he want with you? What happened? Am I awake? Is this a dream? You're awake. Just answer my goddamn questions. I can't. Who was that lady? Oh God, she made me do it. What lady? What did you do? Did Wake hurt you? No, he wouldn't. I hurt him, didn't I? I betrayed him. I lied to him. I didn't want to. It was like it wasn't me. I kept screaming and my mouth wouldn't move. I still can't see right. It wasn't supposed to be like that. He was supposed to... She twisted it. Who? Do you mean his wife? Alice Wake? Was she there? The woman in black. It was supposed to be his manuscript. He wanted it back. We're supposed to talk about it. Discuss it. A literary discussion with me. Are you screwing him? No. Why would you? And he's married. He wouldn't do that. He's not like that. So what were you up to in your trailer? I'm not a bad person. I didn't want to hurt him. Oh, please, this isn't a dream, is it? I can't tell anymore. What's wrong with the world? Everything looks wrong now, and the light hurts my eyes. Everything looks wrong. It's all wrong. Okay, hey, easy. I'm sorry. Okay, Rose? It's okay. Come on, please stop crying. I won't ask you any more questions. It's okay, honey. I'm sorry, huh? Everything's okay now. So in that interview, not only does Nightingale show, sympathy towards Rose at the end, but it also shows that Rose is at least somewhat aware of what she did to Alan and Barry in the trailer, where she drugged the coffee that she gave them. And it shows that she was at least, I guess, somewhat conscious, despite the fact that the dark presence was controlling her. But she's not able to properly get that across because she's been fucking tormented by this dark presence. So, yeah, Nightingale also manages to interview Barry, probably back at the trailer park, because Barry was left behind in the trailer park and Nightingale was there. The interview was pretty funny, but it doesn't really get anything important across. Nightingale also interviews Pat Maine, the local disc jockey and radio personality that we meet and can listen to in the game, and it is a pretty awkward interview because Pat is understandably pissed at Nightingale, and he just insults him and doesn't really give him any information. And the very last interview was with Emil Hartman, which Nightingale had again recorded without Emil's consent or knowledge, and also he had started recording it in the middle of the conversation. And Clay says here Nightingale sounds undeniably drunk. Don't think that can be arranged right now. I'm afraid we're a little understaffed today, so I'm very busy. You should make an appointment. I have reason to believe there's a fugitive from justice on your premises. That's utterly ridiculous, Agent. You're not coming in. Listen, Hartman, you'd better cooperate here. I'm a federal agent. I'm well aware of that. Your reputation reached me long before you did. What's that supposed to mean? It means, Agent Nightingale, that you have demonstrated an unfortunate tendency to wave your gun around and go about your duties under the influence of alcohol. Did you really think no one would notice? You son of a bitch. Agent, I deal with substance abusers daily. You're a classic addict, unable to get through the day without drinking, yet living in obvious denial of your condition. You should seek help. Go to hell. What's your crutch, Agent? A discreet hip flask, perhaps? Do you tell yourself it's nothing? Here's an illuminating little experiment. Does the thought of pouring it all out on the ground make you a little panicky? What a cliche. Shut up. As you wish. Good day. Agent, this is completely unacceptable. I realize that your time isn't spent on anything constructive, but I have patients that need my help. Patients that are actually willing to work through their problems. We're not done yet, Hartman. I don't give a rat's ass about your patients. Is Alan Wake in there? No, I told you about that already. Why do you persist with this line of inquiry? I'm not buying that. I was tailing Wheeler, and this is the only place he could have gone. That means Wake is probably here too. Agent Nightingale, this is my private property, and I will not allow you to disturb my patients. Yeah? I could get a warrant. How would your fragile little patients like that? Oh, I'm thoroughly intimidated by your mighty authority now, Agent. Listen, you smug snob. How would you like it if I busted through this gate and knocked you around a little? Agent Nightingale, first of all, I'm recording this conversation, so you might want to watch what you say. Secondly, you're not dealing with a hick now. I know the law, and if you can get a judge to grant a warrant, I'll be glad to cooperate, but you won't get one. Be advised that any further communications with me are to be made with my lawyer. I don't believe this. Good day, Agent. In the game in episode 4, you can also find a recording of Nightingale talking to Hartman. I'm not sure if this is the exact same interview, but if I can find the clip of the interview in my footage, it likely is, because I don't think they would have talked again. The next section of files are a couple loose pages of Alan Wake's manuscript, which Clay is unable to really understand what they're supposed to be of. All of these seem to mention different random small characters being affected by the manuscript and the dark presence in some way. I'll only read one just so you get an idea of how they're all kind of written. Bill rocked on the porch of his cabin as the last of the light faded, listening to his stomach growl. When his little brother disappeared 26 years ago, at least Bill got dinner. Oh sure, folks had traded tales of screams in the night, and nothing but a smear of blood left behind. And poor Timmy this, and poor Timmy that. But Bill had insisted that the brat must have gotten lost or fallen down a well. Timmy was always careless, always sticking his nose in places it didn't belong. Clara was the same way, Bill's wife. Clara never liked the cabin, always worried about being so far from other folks, always seeing things in the trees, always asking him dumb questions. Now Clara had disappeared too, snatched away an hour ago, leaving a pan of meatloaf fixings on the table. The night deepened, but Bill maintained the same unhurried rocking. He liked the gathering darkness, the way the shadows piled up on each other. All these years, and he never missed his little brother, and he wouldn't miss Clara either. He would miss her meatloaf, though. After that, we get a section that is of some of what Alan Wake has written, and I mean besides the manuscript, like some of what he's actually written as an author, which I think is pretty neat. I've always been kind of interested in what, like, Alex Casey would be written like, even though, I mean, if you played Max Payne and you've read, like, any of the manuscript in the game, you have a pretty decent understanding of how it would be written, like a very descriptive, wordy, gritty cop story. But I just think it would be neat to have seen, like, at least a little bit of it. And finally, here we do. So the first story from Alan Wake that we get to see is Alan Wake's very first published story, called Errand Boy. And it's pretty much a short story. It's not like a single chapter or anything. It's like an actual story, and it clearly has some references and allegories to the actual game and the symbolism in the game. Like, the story is basically a tale of good or evil, or light and dark, if you will. And also there's a lighthouse in Errand Boy, like it's one of the locations. So clearly it's written as if Alan Wake had been unknowingly writing some references that will later show up in his future. I won't spoil the story, but overall it's just a decent little short story if you really want to go out of your way and read it. The next piece of Alan Wake's fiction is the very first chapter of an Alex Casey novel, as I said before. Unfortunately, it's not the last one that Alan Wake had made, The Sun Stop, which has Alex Casey die, which I think would be kind of cool to see how he had killed off this character. But we get the first chapter of Return to Sender, and again, it reads like a very gritty, descriptive, wordy, cop thriller. Like if Max Payne was turned into an audiobook, basically. The next piece of the files are nonfiction. Well, I mean, it's still fiction, but I mean nonfiction in the world of the game. And the first thing we get is a piece of Emil Hartman's book, The Creator's Dilemma, which I think, again, is pretty cool that we get to see his work and his writing. And the book is brought up several times. We get to see him actually bring up and tie some ideas together. In the book, he mentions a patient that he had supposedly successfully helped, and also a patient he had failed to help, and also mentions his 2 trademarked therapies. I'm going to go and read a small section of the writing. Engagement therapy, trademark, and the flow, trademark. I hope this book will serve as an introduction to engagement therapy, trademark, and its sister method, the flow, trademark. I would like to caution, however, that this humble tome cannot replace actual treatment with an accredited therapist from our lodge. The unfortunate truth is that these therapies cannot in fact be captured in a book any more than you can learn dancing or swimming from a book. Creativity is like the deepest of lakes, and this book will only skim atop its glassy surface. To dive deep into that vast lake of your own creativity, to venture to places you barely suspected inside yourself, I encourage you to contact us here at the Cauldron Lake Lodge. That said, I will show you, the artist, a rough sketch of how to break free from the resistances, conflicts, and blockages that have stalled your creative maturation using engagement therapy, trademark, and its companion method, the flow, trademark. The problems of the working artist are manifold and can involve complete blockage, obsessive perfectionism, creative and technical plateaus, libidinal inversion, and negative libidal inversion and negative sublimination, rigid thinking, insomnia, distraction and unfocused attention, detachment and disengagement, cathexis and anticathexis, creative impasse, anxiety and ideational hysteria, traumatic mnemic traces, diffusion of instincts, and identity failure. I don't know what half of those words mean. These are but a sample of the problems I have worked on with our guests at the Cauldron Lake Lodge. Through intensive sessions of engagement therapy, trademark, and its companion method, the flow, trademark, you involve yourself in exercises that force you to confront the sleeping monsters inside yourself, but that also deliver you to creative heights you had never imagined. We will till the soil and work to remove these psychic impedimenta that have found their way into your process. Through engagement therapy, trademark, and the flow, trademark, we work to build the channels of communication between your subconscious, your waking conscious, and your higher conscious. Your newly integrated mind will allow you to finally take control of your life so that you can live in a waking dream and externalize your deepest aspirations. This heightened state will lead to a greater mental clarity and increased creativity, well-being, and happiness. The bygone cliche of the depressed and impoverished artist should be cast aside as a relic of 19th century romanticism. You can live the happy and creative life you would always hoped for. You only need to release your greater self. So, as you may suspect, it reads also like you'd think. He doesn't actually explain what the therapies, engagement therapy, and the flow are. It's just a bunch of buzzwords, as you'd probably expect from this kind of character, who's basically like a con artist, but he's trying to control a supernatural force. Which interesting is a bit earlier in this section of the Creator's Dilemma, Emil talks about his own story and his past, about how he got into being a doctor. And if he's actually not lying, it seems like he started out genuinely wanting to help people, but once he had found the lake's power and being able to turn art into reality and wanted to either control it or understand it, or an obsession of both, drove him farther from actually wanting to help people and closer to, using everyone for his own gain. But I like to think it's interesting that he genuinely started off as someone who did want to help, and then ended as, well, if you know the Control DLC, it ended as him turning into a fucking monster, and then you kill him. He also mentions the phrase or idea, creatio ex nihilo, which means creation from nothing, and it's a real Latin phrase. The next section of the files is a history of Bright Falls and the sort of creepy, unexplained supernatural things that have happened besides the dark presence. I'm just going to skim these without reading really any of them. There's, of course, Bigfoot, a dark cloud, which is likely the dark presence, the feathered serpent, or Quetzalcoatl, shadows everywhere, which are also likely the dark presence, lights in the sky, which means random mysterious paintings that say stuff like walk in light and have a symbol of a torch. You can see these in the game, and they have supplies like ammo and batteries, and it's revealed that Cynthia Weaver had set these up. The Scratching Hag of Bright Falls, which is revealed to be Barbara Jagger, and a couple who had died at the same time under mysterious circumstances, as well as some guy who decided he would live outside during the winter and had miraculously survived through the whole winter, and then somehow disappeared shortly afterward. The final section of the Alan Wake files are exhibits, which really just means old newspaper clippings and some other paperwork that Nightingale had found. I'm only going to read one of these. Dear Mr. Clay Stewart, this is in response to your Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, request noted above. We cannot furnish records related to Special Agent Nightingale, as they remain classified due to the ongoing investigation of an unrelated matter. I can inform you, however, that Agent Nightingale is no longer employed by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Over 13 months ago, Agent Nightingale's partner was killed in the line of duty. The trauma related to this event triggered a severe mental breakdown and the subsequent substance abuse problem you refer to in your correspondence. Our records indicate that he ventured to Bright Falls following his discharge from the Bureau, and we have no knowledge and bear no responsibility for his activities there. Furthermore, we have no files relating to shadow men, lake creatures, ravenous crows, or any of the other bizarre supernatural fauna you describe. Bob Nightingale was a solid and dependable agent who was not able to overcome his tragic circumstances. His current whereabouts remain unknown. So the truth finally comes out. Not only had Nightingale been struggling with some repressed trauma and substance abuse issues, but technically speaking, he should have never even been in Bright Falls. The very first note where he mentions that he would like help from the FBI but can't get it, but can call in some people he knows, kind of alludes to that. He can't call the FBI because he doesn't work for them anymore. So again, it's just something really interesting and kind of explains this character's actions in the main part of the canon through a little side collectible. And finally, we have the conclusion written by Clay Stewart, and I'm going to read the very last part of this. My dreams have stopped, and I consider my part in this matter complete. Before leaving Bright Falls, I threw my dream journal into the lake, and hopefully returned my visions to their source. I want no part of that life anymore. By perhaps all measures, my search must be considered a failure. I've done my job, and I consider this book my torch. I pass it on to one of you loyal readers to continue the investigation and take it where I could not. When I finally left Bright Falls and returned to Madison, I looked for Anna and Milo. Anna and Milo obviously being his wife and his kid. The apartment was empty, and Anna's family refused to answer my calls. They were gone, and I was abandoned. Alone, I searched for almost a year before finally making contact. I now work as an assistant in the basement of the university library, shelving books mostly, but occasionally fixing network problems and walking sleeping students at closing time. On those brief occasions, when one of those students catches my eye, and they look away too quickly, or they are over-polite, I get the sense that they're afraid to catch what I have. Perhaps they look down at me with my anxious manner and ill-fitting clothes, convinced that I am one of life's forgotten and poor beyond pity. I let them look down, smug with the pride of my secret. See, they don't understand what I have. They don't know that when I finish work, my back's sore and my feet as heavy as cinder blocks, that I catch a bus to the other side of town where I climb 6 floors to a small but well-kept apartment. They have no idea that when I open that door and see my beautiful wife and boy look up at me and smile, that I am awash in light and warmth of 1,000 suns. They don't understand that I have treasures beyond their imagining, that I am untouchable, alive, and that I walk in light. So that seems to imply that not only did he leave Bright Falls and his dream stopped, so he figured he was done investigating, even though he considered his investigation a failure, but it tries to also imply he had found his wife and kid again. It's left up to interpretation whether he actually did or if he thought he did and he's just writing it, because, I mean, this is a pretty psychological story, so it could definitely be his mind just warped after all these dreams and his investigation. But no matter what, it seems that he considers himself alive, as if going to Bright Falls was some sort of awakening for him, and it doesn't seem like he regrets chasing after this sort of case, even if he didn't really solve it. He just got some side information for us. And with that, that is all of the side stuff from the Alan Wake canon, the Psycho Thriller comic, the Night Springs comic, this House of Dreams, and the Alan Wake files. I hope you enjoyed. I intend to make a video on Control and a video on Alan Wake 2. One of the DLCs for Alan Wake 2 just came out recently, so I have no clue about that DLC. I haven't played it yet. I don't even own it. I haven't seen like a piece of gameplay, so I don't know a damn thing, and I'm excited to check that out, but I'm also excited to make a video on both of those things, and I hope this little Alan Wake video will add some more things that I had missed, and I'm 99% sure I have not missed anything again. Otherwise, I'll mention that in a Control video, I guess. I don't know. I'm also inspired to work on another video that is not anything Alan Wake related, so we'll see where that goes. But either way, thank you for watching this. Thank you for watching the original video if you guys watched that too. Stay tuned.